Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you. It's Friday. Isn't it a great day in Bloomington? And my tagline is, it's always sunny in Bloomington, minus yesterday. So thank you all for coming. And this is our first event here at City Hall, Business Day at City Hall. And we're real excited to be here this morning. And I really want to acknowledge the City of Bloomington, the staff, Diane Kirby, Larry Lee, and the rest of the people, Jim Urey, who really came together to make this event happen. We are excited with our partnership with the City of Bloomington, and we're really hoping that you find some value and takeaway from today's event. But before we get started, I would like to take this opportunity to recognize our sponsors for today's program. Without sponsors, we are not able to do programming like we are doing this morning. So I would like to recognize Excel Energy as one of our sponsors, our premier sponsor actually, Comcast Business, Mall of America, Merrill Lynch, and Rasmussen College. Could all of you please stand so we can recognize you? Turn around and wave. I'm just looking to see, is Mr. Klingel here? Has he come in? Okay. Our president and CEO, Todd Klingel, was here this morning. Hopefully you all saw him. We are part of the Minneapolis Regional Chamber. We work very closely and collaboratively with each other. So hopefully you had a chance to see him. I know he had a busy schedule this morning, so he might have had to take off. At this time, I would like to introduce a very important person in our community, Mayor Gene Winstead. Gene, can you come up, please?
Well, thank you, Maureen, and it's my job this morning to welcome you to Bloomington, specifically in our Civic Plaza. You need to know, it's being the mayor, I'm the number one cheerleader in the city of Bloomington. And I've used this line before, Bloomington is the center of the universe, so it is great to have you here. But what's important, what makes Bloomington a good and really thriving community is really a mix of good things. And one of those things is a great and strong business community within Bloomington. And I'm looking out over the room and seeing all members of the chamber here, and that is part of it. So I'd like to thank you. Thank you for being in Bloomington, and thank you for doing what you do going forward. If you think about it, Bloomington, our city, is really a municipal corporation. It's a business. Now, it has a couple extra things that go along with it. We're able to do some things with authority and regulate and have a little bit of power over our customers, but really, all in all, it's a business. It's a business that really has revenues in excess of $120 million a year. We've got a general fund operating budget of $68 million a year. We do a lot of different things. We're a service provider. Now, we have a very defined territory of service that we give out, and it's called the borders of the city of Bloomington. But, we're a big snow plowing service. We have a security arm. We have a accounting firm in-house. We have a law office. We have just so many different elements that come together. We've got a lawn cutting service. We have got just many, many things that do, and we do provide service to our customers meaning the residents and the businesses of the city of Bloomington. So as we go forward there, how is it governed? It's governed then with a board of directors, a city council. I guess I'm chairman of the board, and our city council, which is here, they're represented, and they're with us today, and I would ask that they stand up to be recognized. Our city council members Cynthia Bemis-Abrams, Dwayne Lohman, John Olson, Andrew Carlson, and Tim Bussey, all here. So that's the board of directors of the city of Bloomington. As well as then you're going to be hearing from our CEO, our city manager. Jamie Verbrugge is here. Now, we on the board of directors, we were put on that board Well, not because we have great expertise in the business or anything else. We just got more votes than the other guy. So we're put there, but I hope that we do bring an expertise to the governance and the running of this municipal corporation to the board. But when it comes to our CEO, we bring in someone who does have expertise in the operations of a municipal corporation and a government. And we bring that forward with him, and you recruit, you bring in someone who's got experience, and our city manager definitely does, our main CEO. But I'm here to welcome you, and thank you for coming to Bloomington Civic Plaza specifically. And we're going to turn it over to our municipal CEO, Mr. City Manager Jamie Verbrugge, who comes to us with great experience. Jamie formerly served as the city manager of the city of Brooklyn Park. From there, he was in Rosemont earlier than that as city administrator. He was served in Eagan as assistant city administrator, and originally started his career in municipal governance and management in Richfield. So he's moved around, moved up. He keeps falling upward, and that's a good thing. So, Jamie.
Thank you. It's good to know as I fall that I at least landed at the center of the universe. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to Maureen. How many of you attended the State of the City address back in March? Okay, so there are a few of you who haven't maybe had a chance to meet me yet. I haven't had a chance to meet you. More importantly, haven't heard about my experience coming in other than what the mayor shared with you. So just real quickly, as the mayor said, I was in Brooklyn Park for almost 7 years before I was very fortunate to have the city council ask me to be the next city manager. The thing that, for those of you who haven't been here before or haven't been to the State of the City often, the thing that you should know is there's a tremendous stability and leadership in this community. Not just a mayor who's been in his position for 15 years, but a tradition of stability in the CEO position. Mark Bernardson served for 23 years in that role. And before him, John Pidgeon was with this community for, Larry, 30 years or even more than that, right? As a city years that I experienced. Exactly. So, and Larry's one of our organizational historians. So anytime I need to ask a question, Larry's the guy I pick up the phone and call. But that really sends a powerful message about the excellence within a community when you have that history of stability. And it's very appealing for somebody who was looking at a city that you want to go somewhere where there's that stability and you have that consistency in leadership. And so this was a tremendous opportunity, and I'm incredibly grateful to have it. The Chamber is one of the most important partners we have in this community. Bloomington is obviously unique. We have one of the healthiest commercial and industrial sectors of any city in the whole state of Minnesota. As a matter of fact, the CI makes up 54% of our tax base, which is different than every city in this metropolitan area. It's unique. And so having that really strong relationship with the Chamber is absolutely essential for us to be effective at what we do and to be smart about how we look at the future. I want to thank Maureen because Maureen's been a great partner for me coming in. Even before I was hired, I sought out some people in the community, and Maureen was one of those people, so I could learn about what's going on in Bloomington and what makes it special. And since then, we've worked very closely over the last 7 months to continue to develop that relationship. I also have to tell you that the Chamber is one of my favorite organizations in town because I was at the golf event this year, and I don't know if you remember, for any of you who were golfing, that I have to thank Councilmember Bussey and Maureen, who were up there pulling the tickets out at the end, and I won the grand prize drawing. So I have, when I get a chance to take some vacation, I've got 2 tickets to anywhere in the country on Sun Country Airlines, I think. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. It was a great, and it wasn't even rigged. I mean, that was the beautiful thing, right? So, allegedly. So no, that was fun, and I had a great day out there. at the Minnesota Valley Country Club, meeting folks as they came through. I parked myself on the number 10 tee, had a chance to talk to a lot of the business community members. It was a great way to introduce myself to the community and to get to know folks. I want to thank Maureen for giving me that opportunity. I also want to acknowledge Les Fujitaki in the back, our school superintendent, who is also on your chamber board, because Les had set me up for the school's golf event with the same role. And he asked me to do that very early in my tenure here, and I said, you know, it's such a good idea. I suggested it to Maureen, and she said, let's do it. So thanks to Les for planting that seed, because it's been very helpful. So with that very brief overview, let's actually talk about the stuff you're really interested in talking about. This year, the city of Bloomington did something that we haven't done before. We thought it would be a good idea to ask the business community what they thought about the environment here in Bloomington. We've done a resident survey for the last 4 years now through the National Research Center. They have a national citizen survey that they do, and we thought that we would model that and use it to ask our business community how they felt about the city of Bloomington. And so I get to share today the results of this survey, and we've been trying to keep them undercover until this day. So we intentionally had this as an agenda item so that you're the first ones to really hear this. So thank you for coming to find out what you think. So first of all, the methodology. Every private sector business was part of the random sample. Well, not even random sample. So it was online. And we ended up having 3,198 businesses that we sent it out to. 413 took the time to complete a response rate of 13%. Now you might think 13% doesn't sound that great. But in this type of a mailback survey, it actually is a pretty good sample, especially for a first-time effort. Margin of error plus minus 5%, 95% of the time. And the cost was about $16,000. So here are the key findings, and we'll go into these a little bit more in depth. Business owners and managers are positive about the business climate here in the community and the value that Bloomington provides as a place to do business. The ratings for the local economy are very positive, and business space needs are being met, which is critically important as you look at what your future is going to be. Workforce availability is an issue. We're going to come back to this as we get further into the survey, but it's not limiting operations. And while businesses and residents are fairly consistent in their views about Bloomington, businesses actually tend to be a little bit more positive about the city than the residents are, which is good for us, but it also suggests there are things that we need to take a look at. So the highlights from the survey. First, quality of life in Bloomington. The community facets that were most important to businesses were the ones that were important to residents: safety and the economy. You really can't, I like to say, self-actualize. I don't like to get into psychology speak too often, but you know, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the very basic foundation is safety and security, right? And so if we don't take care of those basic needs for safety, you can't continue to move up through the hierarchy of needs. And then the economy is a critical concern. You know that as a business, but residents feel that too. And the economy here rated much higher than our national benchmark. The quality of life, overall appearance of the community is 83%. Business managers and owners gave the highest marks to Bloomington as a place to work. So you see a 94%, but very high scores across the board on these indicators. 88% giving positive ratings as a place to visit, 83% for appearance, overall image, as I mentioned. As a place to do business, 39% said excellent. So 4 out of every 10 people think that this is a fantastic place to do business, which is good because that means that you're likely to stay here. 46% said good. So you got 87% think this is an excellent or good place to do business. On the quality of life issues, and here we start to compare some of the resident responses with the business responses. Residents and business respondents both gave high marks to the city's overall quality of life. More than 9 out of 10 residents would recommend that other people live in Bloomington, and almost 9 out of 10 would recommend operating a business here. Now, the biggest divide came in Bloomington as a place to work, where there's a 12% spread in the opinions of businesses and residents. And so that's something that we'll want to probe in terms of speaking to our citizen constituents. But for our business community, there's a very strong affinity for Bloomington as a place to work.
Jamie, do you want to take
Sure.
questions throughout, or do you want to wait till the end?
I can be flexible, so if you have a question, go ahead.
Just on that last slide, where it shows the comparison, I thought that was interesting. I don't know if we've seen that one before when we brought the two surveys together. Did we ask the question of how many Bloomington businesses, how much of their workforce live in Bloomington, or how that could play into this? I mean, is it, I would imagine we have employees coming from all over the metro, but sometimes those commute times and that is a factor in terms of what people's impressions might be. Do we have a sense of how many people that are employed and live within the city of Bloomington?
It's Councilmember Carlson's question, if you didn't hear it, was whether part of the questioning process was to understand how many of the employees actually live in Bloomington or where they might work, understand the travel shed issues, and the answer is no. We didn't ask the specific question of employee residency for the businesses.
Because they align
They do.
very well.
Yep, they do. And I think that consistency is something we'll talk about at the end, because it has a lot to do with the message that the city is expressing and what people see in terms of what we're doing. So in terms of safety, drilling down into some of the specific aspects here, 9 out of 10 residents rated Bloomington's overall safety as excellent or good. Nearly all business owners and managers felt safe in Bloomington's commercial areas during the day, right? And you know this, if your place is not viewed as a safe place for people to come to do business, your business is going to suffer. And so that sense of safety in terms of the environment is extremely important. 3/4 felt safe after dark. And so the takeaway there, I think, is we need to maybe encourage our businesses to increase their lighting, their exterior lighting. We'll see. But speaking of the mayor's regulatory powers, so. But you know what? XL is here, so they have a lot of ideas about energy efficient options that you can put into your business, right? Right, Michelle? Good. All right, in terms of mobility, related to transportation mobility, respondents gave high marks to overall ease of travel, ease of parking, travel by car. Interestingly, the marks for travel by public transit and bicycle were lower. And this is similar to how residents scored them. So one of the things that we saw in the resident survey, in terms of an area of decline in perception, was that transit and bicycle travel in the community went down pretty significantly. When you're doing a survey, if you see movement of 3 or 4%, that can be accounted for within the margin of error. But when you start to see 8 to 10%, that's something that we have to pay attention to. And in our resident survey, that's what we've seen over the last couple of years, is a pretty significant decline, which is interesting to me considering what I know about what the city's done in the last few years to try and enhance bike lanes and multimodal travel. And so that's an issue that we're going to have to probe a little bit more. And the issue of the environment, respondents gave good marks to the quality of commercial development, to the housing options that exist here, to our overall built environment, cleanliness, and the overall natural environment. Very strong for that natural environment. I think if you spend a lot of time in Bloomington, if you either live here or you've been here for a while, you'll know that one of the points of pride in this community is that we have a tremendous park system, both city-owned parks, but also through our partners at Three Rivers Park District and also along the River Valley. And so one of the things that we're going to be working hard to do over the next few years is to increase access to those places, especially in the River Valley, so that both our businesses and residents have the opportunity to recreate and not just work, because we want to make sure everybody has a little bit of work-life balance, right? And so going to somewhere where you can maybe burn a little stress on the bike trails or get a good walk in, it's going to be really important. In terms of the economy, more than 9 out of 10 business owners and managers rated shopping opportunities and quality of businesses as excellent or good. 85% thought that Bloomington's overall economic health was excellent or good as well. Lowest areas here, vibrant commercial areas. We obviously have a very vibrant area in the South Loop, and we're continuing to work hard to improve that area. We also have focal points for development in the Normandale Lakes area, which is continuing to grow and attract businesses, and it's becoming more vibrant there. Same with our Penn American District, where we have a lot of redevelopment activity going on. One of the things that the council's identified, though, is that we have those large commercial areas where we have paid a lot of attention, and for very good reason, because they generate a significant amount of the revenue that comes in through property taxes. We also have aging commercial centers in this community that are becoming less vibrant. And that's just a factor of shopping patterns, of economics, of investment strategies, and the types of services that people are looking for. So one of the things that we're going to be looking at over the next couple of years are these neighborhood commercial areas. And hopefully a long-term strategy to do that, we'll start to see movement in those vibrant commercial areas response to try and bring that up. In terms of the economy, how residents and businesses scored business aspects of Bloomington, you can see in every category. Business respondents provided higher marks than our residents did. The biggest divide was in employment opportunities and the quality of the businesses and the services. So the employment opportunities tells me that our businesses think that they're providing good jobs to the community, but 82% also tells me that there's a need out there to find workforce too. And you'll see that reflected a little bit later in the survey. The shopping opportunities, I'm a little surprised at the 87%. I'm not sure what those 13% are looking for in terms of their shopping opportunities. I'm absolutely convinced that they can find everything they need here in Bloomington, and they don't need to go to a Dinah. Okay? Don't tell Scott Neal I said that. In terms of governance, a series of questions about Bloomington's governance and service. Respondents were most positive about the city's customer service with an 85% positive score. And as a staff member, this is really affirming for the work that our staff does. One of the things that I've learned in my first 7 months here is that this staff is incredibly dedicated. They're very smart and they're very good at what they do. And so to see that acknowledged and recognized in terms of how people appreciate the service that's being delivered to them, especially considering that you're a captive audience. Like the mayor said, we have our customers, but our customers are pretty well defined and you really don't have a choice in terms of who delivers your municipal services. So to see this level of satisfaction is good for us. It says we're doing things better. It also says we have room to grow. And so since I'm talking about the work the staff does here, we have a number of staff here, and can I just ask them all to stand up? If you haven't met your city staff yet, the folks that are here are from a wide range of departments. Take some time at the break to seek them out and get to know them and find out what perhaps they can do for you if you have needs that aren't being addressed currently. And thank you to them too. The other thing I'll say about the staff, which is really nice coming in, is that they have been fantastically welcoming. And when you have somebody who's been here for 23 years and then you get new guy, I think there's kind of this sense of uncertainty and a little bit of hesitancy about vision, values, change, right? Change is a constant. We shouldn't fear change, right? It's a matter of how we manage it. And so I want to acknowledge and thank the staff because over the past 7 months, they have been great in terms of welcoming, in terms of openness to new ideas, and they're, like I said, they're really a dedicated group. And so because of that level of competency and experience, it makes it a lot easier for me as the CEO to focus on the things that I need to and not have to worry about the services that are being delivered. So as a constituent, you should feel good that you have that level of competence here. And the value of services, you can see that resident and business viewpoints aligned. This number is one that I would really like to see move higher. And I really think that more than anything, that's a PR strategy for us. we have a lot of education to do with folks about the value of the services they receive for the taxes that they pay. One of the indicators that we provide to the council during our budgeting process has to do with a median value home in this community and what they pay for city taxes for the services that are delivered. And we compare them to a lot of our neighboring communities and other communities in the metro area that are close to our size. And consistently, you will see that Bloomington is at the low end of the amount of taxes being paid by a median value home. It's a tremendous value. We have a good story to tell. We need to tell it better. Oh, that bottom one is interesting to me too, that being honest. That's a number that I think council and staff are rightly concerned about because when we're trying to affect policy, when we're trying to work with the community to do whatever it is that we're trying to do, trust is the absolute foundation of what we're going to do, right? And so if we have 3 out of 10 people in our community who are starting with a trust deficit, we have issues. Now, I look to outside resources to help inform how much I should be concerned about this. And so how many of you are familiar with the Gallup organization and the polling that they do? So going back about 40 years, Gallup has polled on people's view of trust that government is doing things, trust and confidence that they're acting in the best interests of people most of the time or all of the time. Going back to the 70s, it has always been the case that local government is higher than the federal government. The federal government used to be in the 50s. Today that number, well, a year ago is the most recent data from Gallup. But as of September of last year, 19% of people feel that the federal government is acting in their best interests most or some of the time. That's an awful number. For state government, it's 62%. For local government, and this is nationwide, the number is 72%. And look behind me at that number. For the businesses here, that number is 71%. So that means that people are lining up with what the national trend is in terms of how people view government. And I like to say that in Minnesota, 10% of the people wake up every morning just being crabby about something, right? So if, 90% is about the best you can expect. But when you see that we're aligning with what's going on around the country, considering all the different factors that are out there, I'm not overly concerned about this number, but I am concerned, and I think there's a lot of room for us to make improvement there. And the issue of safety, the respondents were asked to rate more than 20 specific services provided by the city. Ratings for public safety are incredibly strong, especially with police and fire and crime prevention, garnering the highest rates there. You can see that 98% are happy with the fire services, which is good, because when the fire alarm goes off, our folks have to show up. So that tells me that they're doing a good job, but they do more than just responding to fires. They do preparedness, they do training and public education, and so the services that we deliver to keep people safe in their home and in their businesses is well received by our community. And back to that trust issue, one of the emerging national issues is around police relationships in communities. The number here, considering everything that's been going on over the course of the past year and considering some of our own local experience, tells me that we're doing the right things, that we're still connecting with people about the positive relationships that we have, and that our police department is very effective, not just at protecting people's assets, but also, I think, administering justice fairly and equitably across the community. In terms of mobility, 6 out of 7 of these scores were higher than the national average. So the National Research Center, which is located out in Colorado, has polling information from around the country that they do. There's a much larger sample for the resident surveys than there are for business surveys because not as many communities have said it's important to share this information, or more importantly, to ask their business community what they think. And so it's a smaller group to compare to. But out of the ones that we are able to compare to, we're doing really well in comparison. Respondents' perceptions about street repair are 11% more positive than residents at 62%. This was actually an issue last year before I got here when they did the survey, because the resident responses on street conditions had cratered. Now, I don't know if you remember the last 2 winters before that were very snowy and icy, and we also had a lot of freeze-thaw. And so our road system, which we put a lot of pride into and we put a lot of money into to keep them in good condition, just took a beating. And so one of the things the council said after seeing that response was, well, we want to know how much of this is just recent weather issues. Went back, asked the question again in a follow-up survey, and that number jumped 10% or something in that range, right? So it really was a little bit of an outlier based on just most immediate memory for people. But in terms of that street repair, and in terms of being a large corporation like the mayor talked about, we have $1 billion of infrastructure here, right? And so we have a lot of assets that we have to maintain, and the streets are among the most important. We have a large street network, and one of the things that the council is committed to is making sure it's in good condition. So the pavement management program is one of the highest rated tiers. Well, it's in the highest rated tier for the essential services that we're going to provide, which means we have to resource it to do it. The council is continuing to look at how we can do that and make sure that we don't fall behind, because it's $1.5 million, $2 million a year that we're putting into that program just to make sure that we don't slip in these numbers. In terms of the environment, environmental type services were rated well. Storm drainage, power utilities, utility building were among the strongest. Utilities are exceptionally important. For the ones that we provide, we do it well. For the ones that our partners provide, they do it well. And I think that's reflected because sometimes people, when they're filling out the survey, don't always make the connection between all of the services that you need to do your business and who the actual provider is. And we see this sometimes at city level when we're talking about the transportation network, is residents often don't or can't distinguish between what is a local road, what is a county road, what is a state road. And so for folks who are taking the survey as businesses, they may not know which utility is providing that service, they just know they need it to work. And so I think what you see here is satisfaction reflected for Excel and for CenterPoint and our other utility providers as well. Comparison of how residents and businesses scored various Bloomington characteristics. You can see it's pretty close, and once again, businesses have a more optimistic view a little bit. Ratings are fairly comparable between the two groups. Biggest spread came in the natural environment category. Residents were 6% more positive than businesses, and I think that's just a reflection of who uses our system the most, and that's our residents. So I think folks in the business community, because you're here to work, you're here to make a profit, you have less time, I think, to get out and enjoy the natural environment and the services we provide there. So that's an opportunity for you, is to, again, for work-life balance, get out a little bit, right? Go recreate. We'd like to see you out in our parks. Overall business climate, 84% said it was good or excellent, which is very important to us. 88% of respondents were very or somewhat likely to recommend operating a business in Bloomington. That's good because you're our biggest champion within your networks. It's higher than other municipalities across the country, which is also encouraging. 93% plan to keep their business in Bloomington over the next 5 years. And I also recognize that this doesn't have a lot to do with us, but we're an important consideration in where you keep your business in terms of property taxes, in terms of the regulatory environment. I also know that for many businesses, you're looking at the market you're serving, the local economy, and where you need to be located to best deliver those services. And so that's an important consideration as well. We're trying to do what we can on our end to make sure that you stay here. Next 6 to 12 months, we're going to get into some of the workforce issues now. More than a third of survey respondents are planning to hire in the next 6 to 12 months, which shows that we have continued growth in the economy, I think. That's good. Another 20% weren't so sure. So when you're out there trying to hire people, what types of positions are you looking to fill? We got half indicated they're hiring for technically skilled positions such as medical, computer, architecture, etc. Administrative positions, unskilled labor, and then at the bottom, unskilled administrative. So when we look at workforce applicants, we ask about most recent hiring experiences that the businesses have had. Respondents gave more positive ratings to applicants' prior experiences. Half were positive about the overall quality of job applicants. 1/3 were pleased with the number of qualified applicants. In other words, more of you are saying, I have qualified people in my pool, but only 1/3 of you saying, I've got a really big pool to draw from, right? And so workforce, access to the workforce is an issue. Business owners, managers also queried about their staffing issues. 43% said they did not have enough applicants, at least sometimes. 51% said they weren't qualified for the openings at least some of the time. So again, we're starting to see that. That's not unique here. I think that you know that as business people, that the access to labor right now is drying up just because of the growth in the economy, right? But we have some things that we can do locally once I get through the things that I can share with you what we're working on. So in terms of the workforce limitations, when businesses are asked to what extent the availability of employees limits their options, about 1 in 10 indicated it limited their options to a large extent. 21% said it limited it to a moderate extent, 47% said not at all. It's a custom question at the request of the council, focusing on how beneficial a list of 5 potential services would be to businesses. And so this is the area of things that the city can do to make this a better business environment. The most popular response was business improvement districts, which drew responses very or somewhat beneficial from 70% of the residences. So in other words, businesses looking at their immediate area saying that if the city were interested in developing an improvement district for this area, I would be interested in partnering with them to do that. It's followed by loans to make businesses more energy efficient at 66%. So hopefully Michelle's taking notes over there in terms of what XL can do to help with energy efficiency. But we also do provide services through our HRA for certain services in that area as well. So at the break, you can find Larry Lee or any of other folks in the city staff and get information there. In terms of space needs, business owners and managers also asked about their space needs in the next 5 years. 3/4 indicated no change would be needed. That's good stability for us. 1/4 responded that they would have to add space. Indicated they need to add space within the next 5 years. Were then asked if there was adequate space at their current location for the expansion. And 3/4 felt they had enough space to expand where they were. Okay, so that's good. Now it's all about making sure that you have the capital to do it. 1/4 answered their current location could not accommodate their expansion needs. And that's where we get back to what it is that we can do to help. In terms of government assistance, custom question asking respondents what government programs they might be interested in hearing about. Again, the strongest energy savings programs. So you recognize the cost of operating has a lot to do with your profitability, right? And so making sure that you're limiting your costs to the extent that you can, energy savings programs are at the top of people's minds. 26% would like to hear about programs that help businesses reduce waste. 25% said they would like information about government programs to help finance companies' growth. Back to that 26% on the businesses reducing waste, since the waste was in there. If you track the issue of organized collection here in the community that the council dealt with a couple months ago, that is focused on residential customers. So if there was a concern in the business community that the organized collection would be applied to commercial enterprises, it is focused exclusively on the residential customers. Open-ended comments. So we asked if there are any other comments you want to share with the city. Only 15% of respondents elected to write a response to this question. Of those, 24% said they had nothing to add. So they took the time to say, I'm going to say something, but a quarter of them said, I don't have anything to say. Right? But it's good. I appreciate they took the extra step to do that. 15% provide positive feedback about the city and its staff. 13% commented on traffic, roads, bikes. 12% on a variety of topics. 10% commented on small businesses and job growth. So what are the next steps for us? From data into action. Now, first we have to recognize this is the first time we've done this, right? And so in terms of how we interpret this data, we're pretty limited just at the information that we have. And we have, I think, more questions than answers, frankly, after seeing it. You know, why is it, most importantly, why is it that businesses feel the way they feel, especially on the ones where the numbers are a little bit more concerning? But we can do some immediate things right away. So one of the things that we do is we participate in a program to report performance measures to the state auditor's office. The state of Minnesota incentivizes cities to do this because the state legislature feels there's value in the community having access to the performance of their local government. And so we provide certain data to the state and we make that available to the community. The nice thing is that the state actually partners with us on this, you know, in the area of the state doing things with local communities instead of to them. And so we actually get 14 cents for every resident within our community for participating in this program. So they give us a little bit of financial encouragement. The other thing that's interesting about this performance measures, because the legislature is trying to incentivize more transparency in government, is they also say that governments who are willing and interested in providing this type of information and being transparent to their constituents will be exempted from levy limits or other state mandates in that regard. Now, that was a few years ago. The next time that the legislature convenes, they might decide to do things differently, but at least it was a goodwill gesture from the state to say, we think that cities should be providing better information to their constituents about the services they deliver, and we're happy to participate in that. We're going to utilize the data for some strategic budgeting purposes. One of the things that we have in the near future with the council is to get a strategic planning session on the calendar. Our council, with the exception of the mayor who's been here for 15 years, this council wasn't involved at the council level in the establishment of our strategic 2025 plan, which was adopted back in 2008, 2009, sometime in that area. And so I know the council is interested in reviewing that strategic plan and then also just looking at the next couple years, what are the most pressing issues. So this is going to be very helpful data as an input to that process. And then we want to make sure that we share the survey results. So like I said, we've been sitting on it until you folks came in so that you could get the first view of it. And our next step is to go out and, like I said, tell this story to the community because we have a good story to tell. And then we've been including this in our 2016 budgeting process as well. So before we get into the questions, the closing comments that I wanted to make, going back to some of those workforce issues, is that we have a tremendous opportunity to develop really collaborative relationships in this community. And I think in many respects they already exist. And so it's trying to identify the opportunities, challenges within the community, but more importantly, opportunities that are presenting themselves that we can work together collectively and cooperatively to address. So I mentioned working closely with Maureen and Les in the 7 months that I've been here. Dr. Esther from Normandale Community College has also been involved in that. Looking at our future workforce, looking at the access that you as businesses have to your future labor pool, we want to make sure that our community is preparing our youth in this community to be contributors to our economy, right? So that they don't have to go somewhere else to find opportunities because we have plenty of opportunity here. And so Les gets a lot of credit along with his school board for creating the Career College Academy, which is really focused on getting kids prepared for entering into the workforce. Maureen and her board are doing great work in partnering with Les on that effort. Hennepin County is putting an awful lot of resources into their workforce development because they recognize that this is a significant issue for the future. Todd Klingel, working through the Minneapolis Chamber and in partnership with Greater MSP. If you haven't tracked the information from Greater MSP, they are very aware of the challenges for our metro and for the larger region in terms of attracting qualified workers into the labor pool. What we would need to be doing is building on those relationships and really making sure that we have a net that nobody's going to fall through, that we're providing the workers to you that you need to be successful in our communities. And so I'm looking forward to working with Joyce and Les and Maureen to make sure that the city is an important partner in those efforts. So I'll stop there, take questions. Let me ask again. I'll stop there and take questions. So yeah, Robert.
First of all, really encouraging to see the results on Bloomington residents rating safety so highly. I think like the 90 plus scores for police and fire. I mean, that's nothing less than a standing ovation for the city services and people keep us safe. So that's great. I think the number that kind of stood out to me was the how welcoming the city is of business involvement and resident involvement and including some work through that. But I think that's really a good opportunity to kind of continue this work that you're doing with chamber and businesses and on the resident side too. And so I just wondered if you had any more thoughts on that and what kind of you might plan to do as a result of kind of looking at that and saying, okay, how can we work to make sure that businesses feel like they're more involved and the city's more welcoming of business input?
Yeah. Did everybody hear Robert's question? Okay. It's a really important question is the how, right? You might have caught earlier what I said about the state and the relationship with local governments and doing things with them and not to them. And in terms of how I view the relationship of our local government to those who we serve, I feel very similarly that we need to be doing things with people and not to them. And I can't even take credit for that. That was something that was said by a previous mayor that I worked with, and frankly, it's one of the most profound lessons that I learned over the course of my time as a city manager, and it really had the effect of changing how I view what we do. Right, is figuring out how we do things with people and not to them. And so the first step is building the relationships, and that's why. In my role, I've really made a concerted effort to reach out to the external stakeholders, the leaders in this community, because it all starts at the relationship level, right? If you don't have a trusting relationship, you're not going to be able to move beyond without some rocky shoals. The next step is to ask what people think, and so the survey. Give the city council a heck of a lot of credit that they said, you know what, we value the business community and we think it's important to ask them what they think, because far too often we make assumptions or we do things the way that we've done them because we've always done them that way, right? How do we know how well we're serving folks unless we ask them, right? And so that's why we had the what's next is we have to figure out then what do we do to move beyond that. I think part of it is identifying critical challenges in the community, but it's not just challenges, it's opportunities, right? And so the more that we engage with the chamber board, the more that we engage with our school district, the more we engage with our community college, the more we learn what opportunities they are, and I'm absolutely convinced the opportunities are going to be realized through collaboration rather than the city acting independently. Did I answer your question? Okay. Yes, sir.
Jamie.
Can you get your name, please?
Terry Stirewalt.
Hi, Terry.
There was a question or a category that had to do with code enforcement. It had a rating of 70%. What did that mean?
I think what that means is most people don't like receiving correction notices. Or what it means is that you have a business that you take a lot of pride in, and you work hard to keep the appearance up, and you might have a neighboring business that isn't as concerned about that. And so I think where we see those lower numbers is either somebody who's been through the system and isn't necessarily a fan of receiving some of the regulatory enforcement, or it's they look around at the environment and they feel that there's more that we could do to help take pride in that area that they take pride in themselves. That's what I think that number is about. But code enforcement is consistently not just Bloomington, but almost any city you go to is one of the lower rated services, just because the code enforcement folks have a tough job. And I'll tell you, the folks here are really good at it in terms of not just balancing their regulatory role and the power that they have, but doing it in a collaborative way with the folks who are receiving those services. Is that we're more focused on bringing people into compliance than we are in punishing people for bad performance. Okay. Michelle?
Will you be taking this presentation into other venues to give the results, and then will the more detailed results be available on your website, for example, or how will you communicate all this information?
So we will have it on the website. We are videotaping this program, so we'll make that available on cable as well as on our website. And I think it's an opportunity for to ask you if there are places that you would like us to come talk about this, that we're more than willing to do that. Excuse me. One of the things that I've done working with the mayor, especially over the last 6 months, is getting out to try and meet people in the business community, introduce myself, learn about their business and how they view Bloomington. So if for your own business or for you individually, if you want to do that, I'm more than happy to do that. My business cards are up here. I'd encourage you to take one, to give me a call or send me an email. Issue that invitation. If you want us to come out to the networks that your business is active in, we'd be happy to share the information there as well. Okay. Do you have ideas, Michelle, beyond that?
Not this instant.
Okay. We'll take them. We'll take them. Yes, sir?
I'm Verge Senescal.
Yes, you are. It's good to see you, Verge.
Since there was so much information shared, we greatly appreciated, and overall the numbers I think are very, very good. Since it's going to be on the website, is there going to be an ability for us as we're looking at it to be able to ask questions through the website, through email or something that we can't think of right now, because it's just kind of overwhelming right now?
Yeah, there's a place on the website, and so I'm not as familiar with it as I should be maybe, but for you to provide feedback or to ask questions. There are links there for different people that you might want to direct them to, whether it's the city council members or to the city manager. And like I say, my contact information is here, so don't hesitate to send them directly to me, and I'll make sure that if it's something that I can't answer, the right staff will get back to you right away. And it is time for us to take a break, so when you go out there into the hallway, you want to touch base with staff to get to know them, and they'll be happy to connect you to the right people as well. So, like I said, it is time to take a break, but I have one more thing I need to do before that, and they actually scripted this for me. So, all right, first I want to remind you to submit your business card for a special drawing. We're doing a Made in Bloomington video that will profile your business, produced by the city's communications division. The video will be cablecast on Bloomington Channel 14, and it will appear on the city's YouTube channel. By the way, the YouTube channel is really cool. So if you have time and you're a YouTuber, that sounds weird, but if you're a YouTuber, go check out the city, just subscribe to the City of Bloomington channel, because I'll tell you, our communications staff puts out fantastic material. As a matter of fact, I just learned this week that at the 3CMA conference, is that where it was? At NATOA, which is the National Cable Association, we received an honorable mention award for the video focusing on our local heroes that was shown at our State of the City address. So the quality of production is fantastic. So if you would like to have a chance at the quality of production to promote your business, make sure you drop your business card. The best part is the video is yours to keep, and you get to promote it for your business. So the value of this is about $750. So this isn't something on the cheap, because our staff will put their best effort and their time into it. So enter the win by dropping the card in the basket at the Bloomington Chamber's registration table. And after this, come back at 9.
Overly intellectual, highly technical, all concepts used to define the word nerd. But this group of software developers in Bloomington doesn't shy away from those stereotypes. In fact, they embrace them.
I think nerd is actually the new cool. It's very much a term of endearment. Nobody here would ever be insulted to be called a nerd. We kind of wear it as a badge of honor.
They're even named after the term nerd. The Nerdery was founded in 2003 right here in Bloomington, Minnesota.
We do custom software, and broadly speaking. So that means websites, mobile apps, social media stuff, anything online we can pretty much program.
Nerdery employees are responsible for national mobile applications and online campaigns for Hallmark and Best Buy, to name a few. And as the web continues to boom, the demand for nerds does as well. That's when staff at the Nerdery came up with an idea that will bring 100 jobs to Bloomington.
So we launched on November 1st, kind of our moonshot for recruiting. We call it, it's a nerd drive, and it's very much like a PBS style thing, and we're trying to hire 100 nerds in 100 days, literally. So that'll take us into February, and basically we're trying to deputize nerd hunters all across the country, really, to help us find people that belong here, trying to help them find their rightful place at the Nerdery, because we think this is kind of the ultimate place for nerds to work. That is our company's vision, in fact, to be the ultimate place for web nerds to work.
Cash incentives for recruiters and recruitees are, of course, in place. This worksite is unique for many reasons. The dress code is casual, the workspaces are customized to each employee's comfort level, and no question goes without an answer.
Well, I think nerds really like solving problems, and our clients bring them a steady stream of compelling problems to solve, and we're never going to run out. They also like, I think they enjoy the community here. You know, they get to work with some extremely smart people like themselves. Whereas if they were like the one developer at another shop, they wouldn't have that community. Here, there's a hive mind here that's very strong. And if we don't know the answer to something, somebody next to you probably does, and we can collectively figure just about anything out.
Employees are even encouraged to bring a piece of their home into the office each day.
I think you're talking about our fine furry friends, perhaps, and yeah, on any given day there's 30 to 50 dogs running around here at the Nerdery. And that's just always been a part of our company culture. Every time we've had to negotiate for a new space, that's been like the one thing that was a must-have. So it's just part of our company's DNA.
Made in Bloomington, that's the Nerdery Interactive Development Firm. And if you think you're nerdy enough to be one of the 100 recruits they're looking for, visit their office here on James Avenue or email info@nerdery.com.
So that's an example of the quality of production that you'll see. So be sure to register for that drawing. And just once again, I want to thank Maureen for putting this together today. And thank you for coming out. And do not hesitate to give us feedback. Feedback is the lifeblood of success. Okay? And so to the point that Robert asked his question, if you have ideas, if you didn't have a chance to participate in the survey, please make sure that you share your thoughts with us, because it only helps us get better.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. Let's. Jamie, you are really a breath of fresh air. We're glad you are here in Bloomington. Jean, good job on the hire. Good job in council.